What's up guys, it's Light Spiral here with the Hall of Light B8 Farmable team video. For those of you who haven't seen any of the Farmable team videos on this channel before, basically what I'm going to do in this video is I'll go over all 5 of the units, how to get them, what their purpose is in the team, as well as possible replacements for all 5 of them. So I'll just get into that now. The first unit here is Beretta, the Fire Sylph. It's a fusion nat force. You can get it out of the fusion hexagram, and all 4 of the units you need to make this are completely farmable. So I'm sure most of you guys know about Beretta already, but I'm just gonna say it. What is it? Colleen, the Fire Harpoo, is a natural 2-star, and all natural 2-stars you can get from unknown scrolls, social points, summons, as well as they all have either a secret dungeon or scenario, so you can get Colleen from one of those various methods. The next unit is Shannon, the Wind Pixie. It's also a natural 2-star, so the same methods to get Colleen or how you're going to get Shannon. And then I have Shalok, the Water Serpent. It's a natural 3-star and it has a secret dungeon, so look out for it on Water Day if you don't have it. And the last unit is Bella Dion, the Light Inugami. It has a natural 3-star that has a secret dungeon on Light Day, so look out for it if you don't have it already. Now I'll get into the purposes in the team. The first unit, Beretta, his purpose in the team is he's got like 1.5. The first purpose is he's going to be your damage dealer for this dungeon, and the reason he does damage is that skill he just did right there, the dots. This boss is extremely tanky. It has a ton of defense, so the only way you're really going to be killing this boss is with dots or ignore defense damage, and I decided to give you guys an option with dots just because with this guy you can do you can build him tanky and he'll still have dots, whereas a traditional like ignore defense damage dealer you couldn't really build tanky and it would still make it have good damage. So that's why I chose Beretta. And the half reason I said earlier was his speed leader skill can be very useful in well, in anything really, but in this dungeon in particular. So possible replacements for him is any damage dealer that either does damage by dots or by what's it called? Ignore defense damage. So if you have any ignore defense damage, that works. The only unit I have that ignores defense is Lucian, which isn't farmable, so that's why I didn't really even have an option to try and show you guys an ignore defense damage dealer. So that's why I chose Beretta. So like I said, possible replacements is ignore defense damage dealer / dots. If you have a Orochi, that'll work good too. So that's kind of that. The next unit I have is Colleen, and she has 2 purposes in the team. And the first purpose is her first skill does the single target attack debuff, which is going to help your team, which is definitely going to help your team stay alive. And the second reason is the heal. The heal is not really all that reliable, but it does help nevertheless. And so replacements for Colleen, anyone that's going to be able to consistently keep the attack debuff on the boss can work fine to replace Colleen. So that's kind of that. Of course, if they also heal, that's obviously a bonus, but you're really just looking for the attack power decrease. The next unit is Shannon, the Wind Pixie. She has 2 reasons in this team. Well, 2 main reasons. And the first reason is, and the most important reason, is the full team AoE speed debuff, and the reason you're going to want that is because the left crystal does a defense buff, which makes it so you can basically do no damage to the boss, and the right tower does a invincibility buff, which makes it so you literally can do 0 damage to the boss. So you want those 2 towers moving as little as possible, because as long as those 2 towers are moving, you're not going to be doing any damage at all. And so the speed debuff just helps it so you can get more turns in before the towers go. And then the second reason is the full team defense buff. it just helps your team stay alive longer, obviously. And so the possible replacements for Shannon is really what you're looking for here is you are going to be looking for the AoE speed debuff. Of course, the defense buff is a bonus, and the glancing hit is also kind of a bonus. But if you have anything that can reliably set the attack or decrease the attack speed of the enemies um, consistently, then that can replace Shannon just fine. So if you have Spectra, you could use Spectra. If you had, I don't know, I'm not going to name every single AoE speed debuffer, but mainly a speed debuff is what you're going to look for if you want to replace Shannon. Next unit is Shylock, the Water Serpent. He's got one main reason, and then his other two skills are kind of just bonuses. But the main reason he's in here is that first skill of his does take a buff off the boss. Now, like I said, with why we want the speed debuff on the towers is because we want to get those buffs. We want to make sure those buffs on the towers don't go off very often. But so because of that, you need people to remove those buffs because you're not going to do any damage to the boss if those buffs are on. So Shylock will be removing those buffs all the time. His purpose in here, like I said, is to be a buff stripper. And then his second two skills, I said they were kind of bonuses, and that's because they're both attack gauge decreasing skills, which makes it so the towers don't get as many turns and the boss doesn't get as many turns. But so replacements for Shylock is anyone who can reliably strip buffs off of the boss. Bella is in here for 3 reasons. So when she's in here for 3 reasons, I'm going to say this, that I don't recommend trying to replace her, and I don't recommend trying to avoid the process of getting a Bella if you don't already have one, because you're going to be using Bella in literally everything this game has to offer. Giants, dragons, necro, I believe all 5 elemental dungeons, TOA, normal and hard, you can use Bella, guild battles and arena. The only thing you won't really be using Bella in that often is probably like raids, but I mean, I guess one thing out of the whole game you don't want to use Bella for, so I do recommend just going ahead and getting this Bella. But anyways, her 3 purposes in the team is the defense break. This boss has an insane amount of defense, so getting the defense break does help you do a little bit more damage. Second reason is the buff strip. Like I said with Shylock, you need to make sure that the boss doesn't have immunity and defense buffs so you can actually kill it, because if you can't kill it, then it's never going to end. And then the third reason is its heal. So that's kind of that. Like I said, I don't recommend trying to replace Bella, but if you are completely like insistent on replacing Bella, replace Bella with a healer, preferably a healer that also has a buff strip, because Shylock alone isn't going to be doing enough buff stripping to do this dungeon. So that's kind of that for this dungeon. If there's any other dungeons you're having trouble clearing or farming, be sure to tell me in the comments and I'll make a video on that dungeon as soon as possible. Also, if there's a non-farmable unit that you have and you wanted to make a team around it for a dungeon, be sure to tell me in the comments what the monster is as well as the dungeon, and I'll try my best to make a video on it as soon as possible where I'll use that one unit and 4 other farmable units. And that's all I have for today though, guys, so may the best year today's be the worst year tomorrow's.